Let's bring in James Campbell, the investigations editor at the Herald Sun. Good morning to you, James. So what do you make of that? What do you make of the government's response to the coronavirus that's taking place, and what are your expectations when that package is released this week?
Well, I think events are going to overwhelm us very, very quickly if what's happening overseas is replicated here. A stimulus package is essentially a conventional weapon when demand drops, but you can't stimulate an economy which is essentially in quarantine, which is what the Chinese have done. The Chinese have essentially shut large sections of their economy down to stop the spread of this virus. So are the Italians. The Italians have now quarantined around 13 million people in the largest and most important segment of its economy, northern Italy.
James,
2 weeks ago.
Oh, sorry. I just want to cut in there because the Treasurer is really reluctant to give anything away. I understand why, because they are actually still working things out. This changes on a daily basis, but that's the whole point, isn't it? It is going to change day to day, week to week, month to month, and it is so unpredictable. So you'd have to think any stimulus package announced this week is going to be just the very beginning. And I think it is going to be around $10 billion, but it might very well be doubled over the coming months. And I thought it was very interesting that Josh Frydenberg today is saying, well, stimulus is just a start, but don't forget there's a budget in 2 months' time. So pointing to the budget as that, second timer or marker point where the government might then scale things up.
Well, that's sort of putting the cart before the horse in a sense. What people haven't really got their head around yet here is that we are going to have to follow what is going on in Europe at the moment, and Korea, and China, if this gets in. And the longer that we allow public events to take place on large scale, the greater the chance that there is going to be a large outbreak here. Now, it's almost beyond belief that we are talking about having the Melbourne Grand Prix next week, which is going to put 350,000, 340,000 people in a confined space. It was beyond belief that we held the women's T20 at a packed MCG at the weekend. To get this in perspective, there were virtually no cases of coronavirus in Italy 3 weeks ago. There are now 360 odd people dead, and there are nearly 7,500 cases. People need to get their head around the fact that virtually nobody has an immunity to this disease. It's not like the flu. It is, one, more deadly by a rate of 10 times to whatever. We haven't worked that out yet. And it is spreading at a rate of knots. I find it extraordinary that they would close a high school in Sydney but not close the primary schools in the area surrounding it. These kids have brothers and sisters. Why, what is going on? I really think that we are being very, very slow to react to this. To go back to the Grand Prix, this is bringing people in from Europe. There are now outbreaks in virtually every country in the EU, as well as the United Kingdom.
So did Pauline Hanson have a point, James, that planes should have just stopped?
Yes, of course she does. She's 100% correct. And if you talk to some people around various governments in this country, they agree. People can't. A lot of people who are studying what's going on in the world can't believe how slow we're being to react to it. The problem is that we are looking. We're in this paradigm where we think it's about the economy and/or the disease. It's a false choice.
OK, but James, we've got this real disconnect here. Some seem to be overly complacent, and then others are panic buying toilet paper. So what does that say about the message getting to people? They're either getting misinformation off social media, or the authorities, i.e. the government and the state government, aren't doing enough to get a clear message through. I mean, where are the information kits at doctors' clinics? Where are the information kits? Where's the big, wide-scale advertising campaign nationwide as to what we should be doing if you've travelled, if you haven't, if you're going to big community events?
But there shouldn't be any big community events. That's the bottom line. France has just banned all community events over 1,000 people. Israel banned them over 5,000 people last week. This is something that should be happening right now. The thing to understand is that one of the reasons about the death rate from this disease is, first of all, we don't know the death rate because we don't know how many people have got it, because a lot of people who are getting it aren't getting very sick, particularly young people, thank goodness, okay? But the other reason that the death rate is going to vary wildly around the world is because the survival rate for the people who get seriously ill is going to be determined by how well the health systems cope. So at this point, we need to be putting things in place that are going to prevent our health system becoming overwhelmed. And it's common sense at this point that we need to shut down mass gatherings.
And perhaps, I mean, the government's getting the masks ready. There's an emergency supply of masks. I mean, does everyone need to be walking around with masks at the moment? I wonder. Anyway.
If you're working from, if you can, you should be working from home now.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, I hope you got your mask in your bag, James. Maybe we'll get you next week to wear it on air. Who knows? It might get to that point. See you soon.